Melissa, you're talking to us.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, what is going on with their volume?
Can you hear me now?
Are you muted?
Mm-mm.
Somebody else on the line speak so we can just make sure it's not the issue's not on our side. Laura.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Oh, we can't hear you either.
I wonder if the input is on the machine and not the TV, the sound input.
Yeah, I'm on the
Right.
right, I'm on the right system.
That's something. How does this work?
Can you hear me?
It would be you changed the input, I think, so it's probably an HDMI 1 or 2 input.
Okay.
And then when you go into the audio features on the Zoom meeting, once you get back. Everyone paying time. Their source.
Which one?
Go to unknown, maybe. Oh, PC on TV. Oh, there you go. You got it. I take it back. You had it. Go back.
No idea how to do
Home button.
that.
He just ordered like 3 movies.
Oh, that's awesome.
There they
Can I hear
are.
you guys now?
It's probably because it's on the computer, the way that the audio is outputting. Here, let me look.
Is there an actual audio output?
Try now.
Can you hear me?
Yay, Kate
Tell
saved
us.
the day.
Tell us, doesn't mean that we have to know what you did.
Kate saved the day.
I know she took it off the speaker, I just didn't see what she did.
These two were talking to each other,
Uh-huh.
but the software, Zoom, didn't know.
Oh, got it.
So you had to select the speaker.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So we know.
All right, everyone. So, aside from that little snafu, it is 2:32 and welcome to the Health Equity Committee meeting, March 11th, 2:30. We're going to go through with roll call. Do you want to call or do you want me to call, Sheila? I'll do it.
Right.
Laura Dietrich,
I'm here.
Dr. Qureshi. It's still connecting to audio. See him. Dr. McLean,
Present.
Chief Daly.
I'm here.
Okay. Melissa Myers.
Here.
Okay, Petra McCormick.
Here.
Joe Zuzel is here. Daddy Special.
Here.
Kate Mildy.
Here.
And Sheila Hayes.
So
And-
that's it.
Yes, and I thank you folks. That is 10. That's more than a quorum, and I really appreciate everyone making the time to make this a priority. We will first start with our minutes from the February 12th meeting. And I know everyone received those minutes. Are there any additions, edits to the minutes as presented?
Just a really tiny thing. My last name is Meyers.
Is that on the Monday, February 12th hybrid meeting, 2020?
Yeah.
Yes, I also have a correction on that. Kate Mildy's name is M-I-L-D as in David E. Any other corrections that we saw in any of those minutes?
I didn't even notice my own name being misspelled.
Well, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, thanks. Good looking.
Yeah,
I was
that's right.
more involved with the content.
Do I need to entertain a motion to make the changes?
No, we just say as.
Okay,
as-
changes
as corrected.
as
With
corrected. All right, so we'll submit for those changes and then we'll get them back out.
Well,
As
you
far
need
as the,
a
as far as the
You
other,
need a motion for all three, or you need a motion for each
I'm gonna do a motion for all three.
one? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, so as far as the minutes from Monday, January 8th, 2024, any corrections, changes, additions? Hearing none, we'll move on to the agenda for March 11th, 2024. Whoops, that's the one that we're in today. Sorry, apologize. And those were our two.
So
Okay.
it should be three, December.
Oh,
You can say a draft on it.
got it. December 11th, 2023. Any changes, additions, amendments? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes as recorded and edited.
So moved.
Okay, Kathy moves.
Second,
Okay, I'll give it to Kate first, Missy, sorry.
no worries.
And then we'll do a roll call of favor. So Missy Myers,
Aye.
Laura Dietrich,
Aye.
Dr. McLean,
I, except for last month I was not there, so I had to abstain from that one.
got you. Dr. Qureshi,
Aye.
Chief Daly,
Aye.
Patrick McCormick,
Aye.
Joe Zuzel says aye, Kathy Special,
Aye.
and Kate Mildy,
Aye.
and Sheila Hayes.
Aye.
Great, so motion passes, minutes are accepted. We are getting some things done. Moving us down the agenda. We'll talk about updates. So chair updates, not a lot to be said. I did submit our annual report where I discussed how Representative Darrell Wilson came, talked to the group, clarified kind of where we were going. I talked about our meeting where we discussed the formation of a health equity plan. I also talked about how the city of Norwich HR and the city manager had expressed some concern about the resolutions and how we made participation on the subcommittees for city employees voluntary. I also made sure to include our mission and our vision. And I added in these subcommittees as you see on your agenda today. However, you know, they're not written in stone. We have the ability to sort of move those subcommittees around if we like. Any questions about the annual report or
Is that a semi? Yeah.
semi-annual? I'm pretty,
Every 6 months.
every 6 months.
Right, so it's a
yes.
semi.
Yeah. Any questions about the report or any other things about, or any other questions for me during chair updates? I have a lot. Okay, so we're easing down the road. This might be a quick meeting, folks. We shall see. So guest speaker suggestions, we are always entertaining guest speaker suggestions. I did reach out to Zakaya again, just to see if she could make this meeting. She didn't get back to me. But if anyone has suggestions about guest speakers, please send them to myself and I will be able to sort of reach out and figure out who we can invite. Good speakers are individuals, obviously, who are well-versed within health equity, diversity, inclusion practices, but also maybe some individuals that we haven't heard a lot from recently that maybe have new programs, things that we want to hear about. You are also welcome to invite individuals from your own organizations if you're doing new things about, you know, health equity, inclusion, diversity, belonging that you think would be helpful for this committee to hear about.
Just, I thought at one point you talked about UCFS as a DEI.
Dr. Well is not on today,
But
but I think Sarah Dussault from MPS. Yeah, that would be great, Laura. We have talked with Sarah before, but we'd love to hear an update from what's going on with her. So that would be wonderful.
I think UCFS has hired a DEI person. I just don't know.
Yes, second to she works reports directly to Jen Granger. Yeah, so that would be nice to have that individual as well, because we're working with them for what we're doing with Loverston Duncan right now.
And that was the big idea. So I'll talk to you about it.
Okay, any questions about guest speakers? Any suggestions from the team? All right, fast and furious. Here we go. All right, so subcommittee report outs. So it says report outs, but as you all know, we're still sort of trying to make sure that we're formalizing and locking in place the topics, what's expected and who is assigned. So I did do some shifting around recently. Let's start there with you know, the assignments. Is anyone uncomfortable with their assignment? Does anyone want to have a conversation about that?
Dr. Molly just entered the room.
He did.
Okay. I see it.
All right, so we're all comfortable.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Sure.
So I was looking through these and I was actually talking to Sarah Dussault kind of about this. So with the committees, I was thinking that maybe, and putting our brains together, that it could be 3 committees almost like budget equality and legislative advocacy could come with data collection because they kind of go hand in hand. And then impactful learning with the workforce equity, those two, and then leaving direct service and community engagement as one, just to kind of combine those because they all kind of work off of each other. I don't know, just a thought. If it makes it easier or not easier, it's okay.
Yeah, I think, so we picked, well, I put a lot of these together from the Philadelphia equity plan that we sent out. And I just wanted to be as inclusive as possible. I know we all have different sort of workflows. So some of us that might be easy to combine that, but for some of us that might be a little complicated. But I do hear you. If we want to try to streamline that, we could. I'll put it out to the committee and the group what they think about that.
How did you want to group them?
So putting data collection and dissemination with budget equity and legislative advocacy together. And then is that what you said, Laura, that just combining those two and then leaving the other ones, so just one less committee? Or did you want to combine another one?
She combined A and D as well.
Oh, a workforce equity, workplace impactful learning and professional development. In my own opinion, I think that there's enough for those two to be sort of separated. You know, when I'm looking at, I mean, if I'm being, you know, selfish and looking at from our standpoint, I think that there's a lot in there. It would be hard for me to sort of gloss that on one big spot. Other ideas? What do folks think?
And honestly, I don't, data collection is not, ours is for organization I'm representing, ours is advocacy and budget equity. It's
Got it.
not data collection. So
Got it.
I would not be able to add anything, but data, budget equity and legislative advocacy, yes.
Yes, okay. So I think that's another consideration too, is that some individuals have a lot that's going on in here and some organizations only dabble in little elements. So that I think that was another idea in terms of breaking it out. Other questions or ideas about this?
I just have one question. I
Sure.
wanted to, did you start about, did you want to join?
I did.
She's
I'm
on.
the only one.
She's direct services and community. Oh, and she's right after me.
Oh, okay.
A minute.
I see.
I dove right in, don't worry.
And it's the one
Good looking. Let the record show, Kate.
I got you, I got you. That's everything in community engagement. I got you.
Hey, Joe,
Yes.
not to interrupt, but I have the minutes from the previous 3 meetings, but I don't see today's agenda. I might have missed it or not gotten it somehow. If anyone does have it, I just want to be able to read along.
Can you pull it up on the, no, because it's not on there.
Yeah.
It's okay if it comes later, but I just want to make sure everyone has it.
Yeah, it was a separate email. I'm not
It was,
sure.
it didn't come with the minutes. The minutes was one email and the agenda came like 3 weeks ago. It came,
Was it Jeannie?
Oh.
Jeannie sent it?
No, I sent it.
She listened.
I sent the agenda at least a week ago,
Yeah,
about
it
10
was.
days ago.
along.
Yeah, so it should be from Sheila, SHM.
Okay, I'll find it. No worries. That's fine.
Or SSH.
I missed it too.
Mhm.
I could also pull it up if you want me to on Chrome.
I'm the guest.
Do you not have a browser there?
Right.
Because it would be on the city website. Here, can I drive again real quick?
Sure. You can take the driving position. I'll sit at the head of the table. And, we're learning so much today. This is excellent.
It's our technique. Actually, I don't have it either.
We're gonna pull it up. Kate's pulling it up.
All right. I just went through my emails and I didn't get one.
Why is it making me Civic Plus authenticate?
Go to, I don't know.
I don't have the minutes, the agenda too. The last agenda is from January.
Yeah,
I'll share this.
It was up. It's coming.
You all see it now?
yes.
Hey.
Hey, thanks again, Kate.
Go on.
Two times saving us. Perfect. All right, so now I know. So now you can all see what we're talking about in terms of subcommittee report out. I apologize that you didn't have that before. So I mean, let's dig into talking about these individually in case anyone has questions. So once again, I did sort of model this after what the Philadelphia city plan looked like, kind of what we already had before that was in the resolution, kind of working together to do that. Let's take individuals' thoughts and ideas. We can sort of I'll start by explaining sort of where these buckets come from, and we can help to further define it so it doesn't have to just fall within my definitions. Workforce equity, workplace inclusion. So I think, we're really talking about, hiring practices here. We're talking about, any kind of campaigns or any kind of, day-to-day standard work that you might have around workforce equity, workplace inclusion. So this could include, where people go for grievances, if something happens, what does discipline look like? Is it progressive discipline? All kinds of things like that. How are individuals made to feel included at work? So not just from a racial and ethnic basis, but also when we're talking about idea generation and makeup of teams. I mean, I'll have anybody else kind of jump in if you want to add more to the definitions or have questions about this workforce equity, workplace inclusion.
So can I just understand what our steps are? So for the subcommittee we've been put in, we are to then look at our own place of business and identify how we look at these items with a racial and ethnic lens and what our organization does to try to meet those goals and then bring it back to this group.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of that. So basically, we're going to have sections of the health equity plan. These will be the main sections. And so I'm asking subcommittees to be sort of the clearinghouse for getting this information from everyone on the committee. So for example, we all are doing things around workforce equity. All that information should go to Kathy, Dr. Qureshi, and Laura so that they can compile all that information so that we can then add it into the reports. So we're all going to be looking into our organizations for every one of these topics here. The subcommittees are really about steering that information, collecting it, and putting it together. Does that make sense? Does that sound not reasonable?
So we're nothing's unreasonable. I'm just wondering on the efficiency. So we're all going to be asking each other about areas to put together from our organizations to put together for a plan.
Mhm.
As far as recommendations to the city.
Yeah, because most of our recommendations are just going to be best practices. So we're going to discuss things. So for example, let's just take workforce equity, for example. If Generations has a specific way in HR that they have an algorithm or a specific way that they are advertising a position,
Yeah.
and then so does HHC and so does UCFS, we'll be able to look at those side by side if you were in that committee and to say, hey, best practices really looks like doing A, B, C, as in for this organization, that organization. Am I being clear? Am I stumbling through this?
So are we expecting then, how many people are on the committee now? So we have 2 times 5
14.
areas, so 10 people. So we're gonna have 10 answers in each area.
Ideally, but there will be some that we don't have answers for. So for example, Sheila's organization, they don't do a lot about budget, right? Or no, data collection.
The data collection.
So there would be a gap there. And there may be some opportunities where we have, extra or less. And really what it is just kind of compiling all that information to show that there are options. We may also be able to come back and talk about, what are our best practices as a committee? What are we seeing? We might learn some things about, for example, direct services or community engagement that changes the way that we are engaging in the community, right? We might learn some things about that and say, hey, that's a great idea. Maybe we should move forward with that. What do we feel like we need to put forward on this? Worst case scenario, we offer a number of choices, is the way I look at it.
And then we don't.
And then we would be done. So like the idea is that once this health equity report is completed and we submit it, we're hoping by the end of the summer, then that we would have achieved our task as this committee.
Gotcha. So, just in transparency, I guess I had misunderstood. And the last time we met, I thought we were going back and looking at all the areas and documenting. So I created a crosswalk from the areas of the resolutions to what generations does in each of those areas to what potential recommendations could be to the city. So I have this document. I sent it to you earlier today, Joe. So I thought we were gonna work on it as a group, so I apologize for misunderstanding that. So we, so for example, Sheila and I are on budget equity and legislative advocacy. So she and I would have a conversation about the organizations we represent, about how do we address budget equity and how do we address legislative advocacy, and put those pieces down on a shared document. Are we sharing a document for efficiency that we could all go to, like a Google document or something?
This is why we're having these conversations
Okay.
today. We haven't talked anything about process yet, and quite frankly, if the subcommittees don't work and we want to just kind of tackle one committee at a time, everyone, and do it that way, I'm open to that too. The way that I looked at it was, I thought more hands made less work. So if, you know, 2 individuals took all the information from all of our organizations and compiled it under one subject, then at the end, we could put all the subjects together and we would compile the report together. So
Okay.
So
I'm just trying to
so that
understand.
that crosswalk will still be very helpful because you're going to have to talk about all these different areas that we're talking about. It's just, I tried to make these subjects a little bit more like larger buckets than what was out of the resolution. And that's up to the committee. If we want to base everything off of everything in the resolution, we can look at that too. I'm open to that. What do people think about that?
So it came up at the last meeting as well, the constant reevaluation of the approach and how that has delayed us. So I think it would be beneficial to the group as a whole and move us forward if you kept with the divide and conquer as it's laid out right here. That way, you know, Joe and I can bug all of you guys about your community engagement, make it our nice little list and bring it to the larger group next time. And then the larger group will have all of the bullet points in one swoop. We can go through, package it nicely and send it off.
And I'm not sure how long that's going to take. I mean, there's a lot of direct services. There's a lot of community engagement. There's a lot of data collection. So, you know,
Let me ask this question. So this is Patrick, around data collection and dissemination. Are we recommending to the city how going forward they'll collect data around health equity and inclusion? But, you know, so we recommend that you use the Hartford Healthcare Community Health Assessment to guide your work and to, you know, accumulate the data or compile the data, or we recommend you use the following 3 sources, or we recommend you, you know, is that or are we actually generating data that we're providing to them? I mean,
so we wouldn't be generating data because we already have that, right? All of us have different forms of that. What I think a major component is how are we looking at the ways that we're collecting this data? So for example, we're in the midst of planning for the next cycle for the community health needs assessment. We know that Data Haven, their practices is not reaching specific ethnicity groups. It's not reaching specific towns, right? We know that if we pay for oversampling, we're going to pay that money. We're not going to see those oversamples. We also know that the way that they're collecting is through landlines and that they only have Spanish for translation. They don't have any other translation services. So we've developed something called a CBO, Community Benefit Organization Survey, where through a QR code, we'll be able to work with our collaboratives and we'll be able to work with community benefit organizations to cascade that survey to multiple other individuals and work that out. So when we talk about grant cycles and we talk about housing and when we talk about infrastructure and we have to do studies for specific federal monies within the city, how are they reaching out to individuals? Are they using a landline technique? Are they using the community benefit organization technique? Are they using technology? Where are they getting their samples from? Are they calling during the day? Are they calling in the evenings when we know a lot of, working moms or individuals who have multiple jobs who are from our ALIS population are free? So I think it's really those kinds of recommendations and those changes that we see in the landscape all of the time when we're trying to reach out to individuals. That could be for our patients. It could be for our customers. Like, how are we getting that information and making sure we hear the voice?
I guess my
Highlighting those good sources, but also why they're good, I think is kind of to answer your question more. Like, yes, I go to this place for data to develop strategies and engagement initiatives or implementation, whatever's right. Why do you consider that good data? How do they get that data that it's trustworthy and doesn't have these gaps?
Right. And I think what's really important for all of us is that we're not trying to get into a competition across the table to say like how you collect data versus how we collect data, like ours is the right way. Our job is to show to the city, look, there's like 3 or 4 different ways that you can do this. And depending on what you're trying to do, what investment you're trying to do, how you're trying to reach out, this is how you can do that. But just to be as inclusive as we can of what we're all doing. And so that being said, there may be a lot under these categories that we need to collect and sort of put together, which is why I sort of split it out. So, if you get 10 different ways that people are collecting data, how do you organize that together so that you can report it back out to us and we can make sure that we're putting it all into the report? Did I answer that question? Kind of.
Well, I guess I'm thinking like sustainability of this work is, to whom is going to be the responsibility to manage this information going forward? Is it the city council? Is it, are we all like collectively as a city responsible for this information? Are we? So I guess, the point is, if we say there's some good sources out there, but in 5 years, those sources aren't there anymore. Or, so I remember, I just as a quick example. So years ago, when Bob Zarnetsky was actually city manager and Jen was the assistant, she had put together, it seemed like one of her roles at the time was data collection. And then when I was going to write a grant that was going to reference the city of Norwich, I was to go to her and she would give me the information in a, she had compiled it and put it into some sort of a document.
Yeah.
And then I could kind of tap into that for the areas that I needed for my application, as long as it was something that was going to benefit the city. So I think that at least just from like a data collection point of view, would be where do I go in the city to get that information that's going to be valuable to me, and then I will report back to the city to say,
I love that.
I just got a grant and it's going to benefit you in this particular way.
I love it.
And then, around things like advocacy, like who sets the agenda for advocacy in the city and what information do they need to gather to be able to determine if it's with a health equity lens.
Right.
And, I guess that's the procedure of how we do this going forward, I think is as much important as the gathering of information.
Right. And so I think like there's recommendations or there's might be asks of the committee as well. So we could structure our sections about that. So one is best practices and information that's out there and how things are done, but also moving forward as far as future explanations or questions for the city, that would be a perfect thing to put in your section to say like, we'd like to see, you know what I mean? The committee thinks that this would be a great idea, so on and so forth. And I think those suggestions are going to be as powerful as what we're actually doing as well. So I think like it's both in those sections, in my opinion, but I'll open that up to folks too.
So what's the timeline you said again by the end? When do we have to submit this that we think we decided on?
So there really is no timeline, but I think, we've been kind of working at this for over a year now. And I think, a reasonable timeline to just get this information together and our requests together would be, by the fall, like the end of the fall, September, October is kind of what I was thinking. We can sort of adjust that, but I think it's important as committee members that we have sort of an end, right? That we can see where we're working towards, and kind of give that idea. I look at this committee in kind of stages, like this stage right now is sort of the gathering of information, the making of the requests. the action will fall to the city and city council and maybe another amalgamation of this committee, should we move forward with that. I think we're really more focused on this plan and presenting the information, but I'm open to others' thoughts on that.
So rather than, so I'm looking at the first one, the workforce equity and workforce inclusion. So I'm sure each of our organizations are doing something or the other. Is it better for it? Is it helpful for Kathy, Dr. Qureshi, and Laura to reach out, or for these organizations to have their representative present in this committee and then take the minutes and have it, rather than put the onus on Kathy Special, Qureshi, and Laura on collecting the data and bringing it here and presenting it again anyway?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we have every HR director from every organization come and present, it's gonna really bind us up in terms of our timing. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And the same thing for like our community outreach, right? Like, I mean, Kate and I could talk probably for days on the direct services that we're doing, but really it's more about how do we get that information out? Not saying that those committee members, maybe one at a time, might want to have some meetings with individuals at different organizations, but that's why we're all present here, because if, you know, Kathy wants to meet with someone from Generations, Missy will be able to connect them to them and we'll be able to get that information. So really it's using our connections and to those committee members to be able to gather that data sufficiently is the way I'm looking at it. And once again, this is really only my perspective. So I'm open to, you know, other ways of doing it or other suggestions.
Well, maybe, all right, say for me, maybe Dr. Qureshi and Laura and I get together and work out a series of questions. And then we provide everybody else with that series of questions and then they can answer them and submit them to us.
That's a great way to do it too. I'm really letting the committee do however they want. If we want to standardize that, if we think like, hey, that's a good idea, I think the first task for every committee is to sit down and plan how you're going to get this data. And then maybe our next meeting, we talk about that. And if somebody has a really great idea and we're like, you know what, we should all do it that way, then we can kind of go about that. Unless we want to take some time to talk about it today too. Because this is the majority of our work today, is to really look at how these subcommittees are going to work, how they'll be effective, how we'll eventually get that data and those asks together to present the plan.
So either way, you know, I'm still looking at the first one, and I know exactly the person in our organization that can provide the best information rather than dilute it through me. So I would like to connect that person with Kathy, Dr. Qureshi, and Laura then.
Yeah, I think that's a great plan. I mean, honestly, I will not be able to talk about all of these things from a Hartford Healthcare standpoint.
All right.
So large, so I'm gonna have to do the same thing. But that's the whole point, is that we have that connection and that inside track. So the people who are in those committees are not banging their heads against the wall, not being able to connect. So we provide that warm transfer. They provide that information. The committees organize that information. We bring it back, somehow put it into a plan.
I just have one question
Sure.
off the top of my head. Would we be getting for some organizations, the same people under the 5 different, I mean, I guess, like, I know
There may be
healthcare might be where you have different people.
Correct.
Okay, but I'm thinking, I don't know, unless I'm not.
HR,
I'm-
data collection.
That's
Right.
Legacy.
Patrick's gonna be busy.
But you might have a person within you, I mean, without you, I was really gonna go to Melissa with Generations and ask her, would it be like 2 or 3 people? Or would it be individual people for these sections?
I can say for Generations, I answered all of these in that crosswalk I created, but if you really want to dig in deep, yeah, it would be different people at Generations that we would sit with and interrogate.
Perfect.
Okay, so there's some that is gonna be the same.
Yeah. And generations may be already done.
right, that, right.
Sounds that way.
That's awesome.
Um. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's another thing. I mean, I can have, at UCFS, we have different people who look after these, who are responsible for each of the 5 things. So I can have them write a summary, or if, depending on the detail that you want, and bring it up just like Melissa did.
So I just want to throw the idea out there one more time about a Google Sheet that is a document that has all the categories, you know, going down with maybe the questions explained a little bit better, not just, you know, for example, budget equity. Well, what are you saying? What
Right.
was the piece in the, you know, in their goals? What were they trying to achieve on that? What are we driving at with that question? And then going across, you have all the organizations who can plop in if they have answers or not applicable if they don't. And anybody can access it at any time with their own particular resources at their organizations as they're ready, as opposed to all of us going back and forth to each other. So that's just
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I like that
how
idea.
it usually works in other coalitions.
Yeah.
Just
I like
because it's
that.
a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot. I think maybe what we need to do though is for those committees, they need to be the ones to create the
Yeah,
the
questions.
questions, right?
Yeah,
Questions and the asks,
yep.
you know. But
If
I think
there's a framework, we should each go in and populate our questions. And that way it's ready for anyone within our organizations to look at and answer under your column, so to speak.
right.
Um,
Can I
what
ask
would
if
be
everyone has access to Google Sheets within their organization?
I probably can figure it out, but
Okay.
I don't use Google.
You can come to the library.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Because I don't, or I don't get the kids to do it. 'Cause
You're
they're
good to use Google Sheets too.
Google Docs.
Yes.
Yeah, the kids.
I just didn't know because our IT used to not like it, but we can still get away with it. So I always ask.
So
Yeah.
we have access, Joe.
We have access.
Yeah, we don't use Google Sheets, we use SharePoint, but we can figure it out. I'm sure I can talk to my IT and we can figure that out.
Okay.
Well,
Unless
So-
it's a better alternative. I feel like it's more efficient. That's all.
Oh, I agree. I agree. So while the committees are meeting to develop questions to sort of even dig in a little bit more in terms of their definitions, what they feel like these things are, I'll create a Google Sheet and try to share it with everyone so that we have it. And then when the questions are ready, we'll start to put them in and start to work that way.
Well, do you want that assignment for the next meeting that we review and make sure the questions?
Yeah, that's what I think we should do.
And then.
So for the
then
next
we go
meeting-
forward.
For the next meeting, it would be great if the committees could meet at least one time to discuss, you know, what are their definitions of what's in bold, the title of these committees, and what are the questions, what's the information that they're looking for? And, you know, it can be specific questions, or it could also be very like large scale general questions, like tell us about all your professional development opportunities within the areas of diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, right? And then you can parcel it out for LGBTQ+, parcel it out for, you know, multiple languages, disabilities, so on and so forth. So it could be very specific, but it could also be general, more buckets. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Does that sound good to everybody? That's first steps.
What'd you say?
I had a question, but I don't want to muddy the waters.
No, go ahead.
Oh, we love the
I
mud.
was just wondering who's the ultimate audience for this? Is it the city council? That's who the audience is.
Well,
The city.
actually, it should be the city.
Through the
I
city.
mean,
Right, I know, but
The council is who the final report should
Yeah.
go to.
Right.
But it's up to.
It's a book written
But
for
is
the
person
city,
on the
read
street
by the
gonna be
council.
Reading this thing in Carolina?
No, it should be. the
And I
city
guess, so
manager
that's my
report.
thing is.
In terms of
it's a-
implementation,
but
the
it's
city
a-
manager.
But is it gonna be a living document or it's a one-time assessment of where we're at and what needs to be done?
I'm going to say that's probably something the city council is going to have to draft the resolution to instruct the city manager.
To then take
And
action
then
on
to
specific
come back,
elements.
that it would be an action item. Request of the
Because
city.
it helps me
manager.
in my own mind define what we're doing here to know, am I looking like 10 years down the road at what?
I
No,
think you're looking 2 to 3 years.
okay.
Down, I mean, the council, because the one thing we're finding out, the council can't bind, so, you know, when this is submitted, it would be, 2 years. Look at it as a 2-year document, and then the council would either have to reauthorize or request the city manager.
And we can have language in our intro that it also addresses those timelines to say like, this is a snapshot of, where we are during this time period and,
Just because the work of these organizations will
Changes
evolve
all
and
the time,
change
yeah.
and transition, and the community itself will
Yeah.
evolve. And
And
look
we'll have to
different
speak to that
and-
in the plan, you know what I mean? We'll have to talk about that in the intro.
Patrick, I wish the city would hire the assistant city manager. Because what Jennifer was doing at the time was
A
valuable.
lot of this.
Okay, so that's. But if that was to happen, or a dedicated person for grants and keep talking, we need a
Oh
grant.
my
writer.
gosh, the grand management
but
of the city is a nightmare. I've been trying to get into that PMS system. Oh my
The one she was
Literally
applying
all
to
PMS,
specifically
but-
was an EPA health
Yeah.
equity application, was why we were generating the data at that time. And she was emailing every department in the city saying, I need your data, this is what I need, and I need it from you by Thursday. And it was boom, boom, boom.
Mhm.
And that was the
Well,
last time I've
And
ever
you're
had
just
that.
talking about the data piece of the grant writing, but the administration alone, like, there's 2 different systems for each one of the grants I'm a PI on. And then we have John as the authorized signer. So every time I go into a system to do a report, Jackie gets a text message with a code to be able to text me her code for me to be able to get into a system to do a report on one of my grants.
But
So in
this is
terms
my
of,
point,
like-
is the cities, the only time I've ever been approached by the city to work on a grant of that magnitude was by that individual, and that was 15 years ago or
Right.
more.
Exactly, and I think that the infrastructure supporting grants management is lacking in the city.
We're
That's separate from the data collection piece of it, it's the actual administration of it.
And we are trying to hire a grant writer and administrator, not just a grant writer. So I know John would like it, but, departments obviously
Yeah.
wanting.
I mean, I can write my own
And
grants, I
so
just don't wanna manage them.
Right.
I'm not trying to go off on a tangent, I'm just saying, like, we can't commit the agencies at this table to be providing services to the city at all times, but if the city has a managed plan where they're looking for
Right.
funds to support this work, that at least makes me more comfortable that there's a.
This plan will feed into that funding, hopefully,
Yeah.
having some sort of tangible best practices that'll legitimize the ask for funding for the work we're talking about that's not happening right now.
Plus, when we talk about budget equity and legislative advocacy, we can also talk about money from cannabis or money that we're seeing that's coming through. And perhaps there are suggestions within the equity plan to hire an individual who works for the city in the DEIB space. And maybe that's where we use some of that revenue and those kinds of things. Like, how are we
Actually,
offsetting
with City
those?
council goals for this year.
So I mean, like, I
And
think like,
budget.
I think we have to look at this equity plan as the very tiniest of baby steps in like where this is all going. But quite frankly, those of you who know me, that's kind of like how we have to do. We have to take little bites. We can't take that whole resolution and think that we are going to do all of this work right off the rip. We have to like start small and then scale and scope as we go. And I think this is our perfect opportunity for that.
Has the city ever discussed hiring a consultant for DEIB to do a comprehensive assessment and recommendations?
Not that I'm aware of.
That
The
would be
last,
through HR.
yeah, that the last city manager we had that ever had that discussion is 15 years ago, Bob Jarneski. He was the only city manager that even wrote up policies that would be implemented. We've had 2 city managers since then, neither of them have felt that was a priority, nor have the councils. This year, we just went through the council priorities, And there are some of those priorities of this council for the next 2 years.
Other questions about this? Okay, so just to recap, so everyone is clear. Folks who are on the subcommittees, you'll meet with your subcommittees and you will discuss what the subcommittee topic and themes sort of mean to all of you. You'll develop some questions, some sort of guidance in terms of how we're going to collect some of this data. And we will have report outs next meeting. And if we are all aligned with that, hopefully we'll ask questions and kind of dig in a little bit. If there's a specific practice or specific questions or structure that people have developed and we like, we can standardize that throughout the committees. And then once we have those questions, we'll put them into the Google Sheet and the work will begin. Any questions on that ask? Does that seem like a reasonable timeline, at least to get started? I recognize we might need more than just one meeting, but it gives us a month. Okay, perfect.
The subcommittee meetings require minutes and everything, and no, okay, I just want to make sure about.
No, that's on you. You can do however you want to do.
Okay.
Any other, that's a good question. Any other questions on how to run the subcommittee meetings or anything that you need for that? It is basically very informal. Just get together and have your conversations.
Take notes.
Yep. So. And if you want to present at the meeting, that's fine. If you want to send anything to us as pre-reads, do that. We can format it and make sure that we're printing out and sending it to folks. We try to keep just the facts on the agendas, so we wouldn't put all the details in that, but we can send pre-reads to the committee members if there's an exorbitant amount of information that you want to share. All right, other business. Anything? Open forum type of thing?
Motion to adjourn.
Yep, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. So roll call, here we go. Melissa Myers,
Aye.
Dr. Walia,
Yes.
Dr. Qureshi,
Yes.
Laura Dietrich,
Aye.
Dr. McLean,
Yes.
Chief Daly,
Aye.
Patrick McCormick,
Aye.
Joe Zuzel, aye. Kathy Special,
Aye.
Kate Mildy,
Aye.
Sheila Hayes.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you again for everyone coming today. I think this is some of our best attendance. I feel like we are moving down the road, so feel free to reach out to me with any questions.
Chief Daly, before you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Before you get off, I just have a question for you. After you stop recording.
Yeah, I'm trying to do.
Go ahead. I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm waiting for him to stop the recording.
Can't find it. Kate. Oh, there you go.